Hi, and welcome to another edition of Pop Culture Addicts 5 at 5. I'm Tim, one of your co-hosts. So a while back, I did 5 songs by Scott Weiland away from Stone Temple Pilots. And I thought, there's another band out there that I really appreciate that really set the tone for me as far as music in the 90s when I was growing up that I still listen to today, and I love their singer, and that's the band Pearl Jam. So I thought it would be really cool to look at 5 songs from Eddie Vedder that mean something to me away from the band Pearl Jam, because Pearl Jam's a whole nother topic and I could go on for them for hours, literally. So let's look at these 5 songs. Number 5, there's a song called All the Way, and it was a tribute to the Chicago Cubs. You might notice I'm wearing a Cubs hat today. Now, I'm not the world's biggest Cubs fan. My grandfather was a Cubs fan, and he watched them every day, religiously on WGN, religiously. And then my dad's a Cubs fan, and there's other family members who are Cubs fan. And so for me, hearing that song as a tribute to the Cubs and the lovable losers, the guys who were never going to win the World Series up until they did in 2016, listening to this song reminds me of my grandfather watching the Cubs. This reminds me of WGN. It reminds me of Ryan Sandberg playing second base. It reminds me of Andre Dawson out in the outfield. It reminds me of Greg Maddux pitching for the Cubbies before he went down south to the Braves and found all that success down there. There's a lot of good memories tied to this song, and I think that even if you're not a Cubs fan and your team, whatever sport it is that you subscribe to, and if they haven't won in a while, well, then this song is for you. And that's what it's about, is having faith in your team that someday they will go all the way. And so it's really cool to see that Eddie Vedder, a huge Cubs fan, was not only able to do this song and have it blow up and kind of become the Cubs anthem, but then also for him to be there when they won the World Series. So really cool moment there. Number 4 is the song from the soundtrack, I Am Sam. Now, I've watched this movie one time, and I swear to myself, I would never, ever watch it again. This movie destroyed my soul. It's a beautiful movie. It really is. I don't think I have ever openly wept so hard watching a movie. Maybe one other time, Marley and Me, never doing that one either. But the movie I Am Sam with Sean Penn and Dakota Fanning, and it's just a beautiful movie, really well done, but it destroys me. Sean Penn's character is a huge Beatles fan, and he follows the Beatles, and he's trying to raise this child, and he's singing all these Beatles songs to him. The soundtrack to this movie is beautiful, and it's a lot of really cool covers of Beatles songs. And one of them happens to be You Got to Hide Your Love Away, which of course is a Beatles classic sung by Eddie Vedder. So check out the I Am Sam soundtrack. But if you choose to watch the movie, grab a box of tissues. You're gonna need them. You've been warned. Number 3 is from his Ukulele album, Ukulele Sessions. It's just, there's a couple of Pearl Jam covers on there. There's a couple of other covers. I believe there's a Louis Armstrong cover on there as well. And there's a couple of originals that Eddie Vedder put together to sing on his Ukulele album. And my favorite one happens to be a song called Longing to Belong. It's a beautiful love song. I imagine this song being played at weddings by Pearl Jam and Eddie Vedder fans who want to have that endearing song to their significant other as they're dancing side by side. It's a beautiful song, and I think of it often, and I've listened to it often. It's on a lot of my playlists. So Longing to Belong from the Ukulele album is a beautiful thing. Check that out. Number 2. So there's a song from another soundtrack, a movie called Once. I believe it was a musical, and I say believe because honestly, I've never watched the movie. Musicals really aren't my thing. I don't know if you guys have caught on to that or not. Schmigadoon aside, musicals are not my thing. Anyway, this movie Once has a really neat soundtrack, and there's a song on there by Glenn Hansard that he does a duet with Markita Erglova. And Markita, I'm so sorry if I mispronounce your last name. With a last name like Bicycle, I try really hard to make sure we get those right, but every once in a while one sneaks through the cracks here. But Glenn Hansard with Markita Erglova, and the song is called Falling Slowly. It's a beautiful love song, and I adore just about every version of this song that I've ever heard. However, the one that took me most off guard, and I don't know why, but I just never expected Eddie Vedder to be singing that song with Glenn Hansard. It caught me off guard, and I love it. And I think the only way you can find that in any type of release is to look for it on YouTube. So type in Falling Slowly, Eddie Vedder, you'll find it. Because I think he does a version of it away from singing it with Glenn. And then there's a couple versions where he's done it with Glenn. But the ones with Glenn, in my opinion, are the best ones. Check those out. And number one, the Big Enchilada, the top dog. That's right. Number one is a song by the band called Temple of the Dog. So again, this band is from the 90s. So if you're a child of the 90s, you already know what song this is. But Temple of the Dog was formed after the death of Andrew Wood, who was the lead singer of another band called Mother Love Bone. In Mother Love Bone were the bass player, Jeff Ament, and Stone Gossard. They were members of that band. When Andrew died, they were still wanting to create music. They connected with Mike McCready, and they were already friends with Chris Cornell. Chris Cornell, of course, from Soundgarden. And they brought in the drummer from Soundgarden, Matt Cameron, who would, of course, eventually become the drummer for Pearl Jam down the road. So they started making Temple of the Dog, a one-off album as a tribute to the late, great Andrew Wood. And if you've never listened to Mother Love Bone, go listen to Andrew Wood's voice. The man's voice was magic. Absolute amazing, dead way too soon. Another man lost to drug addiction. But on one song to help with, as a duet, to help with lead vocals, they brought in Eddie Vedder, and that song is called Hunger Strike. Go check that out. It's a beautiful song. And Eddie does some backing vocals throughout the rest of the album as well, but this is the one primarily where you hear it. And every time I've ever heard this song, whether it's on vinyl, whether it was on CD, MP3, or it was a live version of the song that Chris and Eddie sang, years after, has always been really, really cool. It's one of those songs where a lot of people try and cover it, often imitated, never duplicated in the way that Chris Cornell and Eddie Vedder were able to do it. Anyway, those are my top 5. Go check them out. Hope you guys enjoy the list, and make sure you hit that like and subscribe button that's coming down right out there. Anyway, our editor will put that in there for you. This has been Pop Culture Addicts. Make sure you find us on your favorite audio podcast provider and subscribe here on YouTube as well. Take care, guys. Until next time.